Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, brothers and sisters, to Lesson 1, Part 2. This is a continuation from Lesson 1, Part 1. We are still focusing on the concept of indefinite and definite, nakira and ma'rifah. For those brothers and sisters who completed the activities for Lesson 1, Part 1, the answers can be found on the link of this particular video. So I want you to have a look at my answers and match it with your answers. And if you have any questions, then do feel free to contact me, inshallah ta'ala. In today's presentation, we are going to be focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes in the Quran that appear in both forms, the indefinite form, nakira form, as well as the ma'rifah form, the definite form. Names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are very important and significant because this is known as Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. And through Allah ta'ala's names and attributes that are found in the Quran, this is how we come to know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And we find that people like to commit to memory these names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today we want to understand how they appear in the Quran in these two forms. Let us take a look at some examples. The first example is Rahimun. We see there's no alif lam at the beginning, so it qualifies to be nakira, indefinite, meaning all merciful. The opposite of it will be Ar-Rahimu in the definite form, Ma'rifah form, the all-merciful. Another example, Ghafurun, no alif lam, all-forgiving. Al-Ghafuru, the all-forgiving, Ma'rifah, definite. Sami'un, all-hearing. As-Sami'u, the all-hearing. It becomes Ma'rifah again. What we also notice here, when we say as-sami'u, we don't pronounce the lam of the alif lam. The gets joined to the sin and the lam remains silent, as-sami'u. But when we say al-ghafuru, we pronounce the lam of the alif lam, al-ghafuru. Why do we have that difference? This is because of a concept known as sun and moon lattice. That is something you also learn in Arabic. Now, throughout the Quran, you will find this, that sometimes with alif lam, we pronounce the lam, and sometimes we do not pronounce the lam. The same will apply when it comes to Allah Ta'ala's names and attributes. The names and attributes of Allah Ta'ala are galore in the Quran, and they come in both forms, indefinite and definite. Some attributes of Allah Ta'ala in the Quran may only come in one form, for example, Ar-Razaq, Ar-Rahman. These two attributes of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala only come in the definite form with alif lam. So Ar-Razaq, the true sustainer, the all provider. Ar-Rahman, the giver of mercy, or you can say the all merciful, but we mean the entirely merciful. Allah is Ar-Rahman. Now these two attributes, you will not find them in the indefinite form as Razzaq and Rahman. It is better to learn the names and attributes of Allah Ta'ala in the definite form with alif lam, because this is how the 99 names of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala are generally memorized. So when people memorize the names and attributes of Allah, they say Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Malik, Al-Quddus, As-Salam, with alif lam. So that's why when we are learning the vocabulary, this is a way we can adopt. When it comes to other words, we can adopt the indefinite way, where we learn it without alif lam. As I mentioned, we learn it without alif lam, as I mentioned in lesson 1, part 1. Now we look at a Quranic page. This is Surah Al-Fatiha. I want to show you how do we go about identifying Allah Ta'ala's names and attributes in the Quran. So we look at Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which is found at the beginning of every surah except for Surah At-Tawbah, also known as Surah Bara'ah, in the 10 juz of the Quran. Here you find Ar-Rahman, Alif Lam, and Ar-Rahim, again Alif Lam. In verse 2 of Surah Fatiha, again you find Ar-Rahman, Alif Lam, Ar-Rahim, Alif Lam. So once you find it in whichever form, then you know must you say the or must you leave out the in English. Looking at this particular slide, we have Qadirun, Allah Ta'ala's name and attribute, Qadirun, which means all powerful, all competent, all able. And this is in the Nakira form. Alimun on the right is also Nakira form, also indefinite. It means all knowing, coming from the word ilm. Ilm, alim. Ilm is knowledge. Allah is alim, all knowing. In this particular slide, we have two examples on the left and two examples on the right. The two examples on the left, Ghafurun and Rahimun, have no alif lam, they are nakira indefinite. And the two on the right, they have alif lam, al-Ghafur, al-Rahim. They qualify to be ma'rifah definite. The difference in translation would be on the left, we would say all forgiving, all merciful. On the right, the all forgiving, the all merciful. So this is how you can see in the Quran how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used his names and attributes in both forms, ma'rifah as well as nakira. We go on now to the book itself, book 1, lesson 1, part 2. Right on the top you can see part 2, and again, brothers and sisters, this can be downloaded or printed from the link on YouTube. The names and attributes of Allah also come in two forms. Number 1, indefinite nakira. Number 2, definite ma'rifah. Whatever you see in the green is nakira, and whatever you see in the blue is ma'rifah. Rahimun, all merciful. Ar-Rahimu, the all merciful. Alimun, all knowing. Al-Alimu, the all knowing. Hakimun, all wise. Al-Hakimu, the all wise. Ghafurun, all forgiving. Al-Ghafuru, the all forgiving. Moving on to the next page, this is page 5, activity 1. What you need to do here is to highlight the indefinite nouns in blue and the definite nouns, highlight the indefinite nouns in green and the definite nouns in blue. And then after doing that, you write the meaning of each one in the space provided here. And then correct this example and then answer this question. Moving on to page 6, another activity, activity 2 there. You will state whether the names and attributes of Allah are indefinite or definite, and then you will learn these additional names and attributes of Allah that does not appear in the beginning page. I think that's page 4. So Basirun, all seen. As-Sami'u, the all hearing. Al-Maliku, the king. Khabirun, all aware. Qadirun, all powerful. Al-Basiru, the all-seen. Ar-Rahmanu, the giver of mercy. Or you could say, the entirely merciful. Azizun, almighty. Kareemun, all noble, all generous. Ar-Razzaku, the all-sustainer, the all-provider, or you could also say the true sustainer, the true provider. So these are additional names and attributes of Allah. Some are in nakira form, some are in ma'rifah form. When you are learning, you can adopt the ma'rifah way with al, but you should know the meaning of both, whether to put the in English or whether to leave it out. Two questions for the learners, the brothers and sisters. Are you learning your words? Whatever appeared in lesson 1, part 1, and now obviously you have to learn lesson 1, part 2. How are you learning? That's important to consider. Who is testing you? Do you have somebody who can test you? The words that you are learning? And do you have some revision program in place? So it's a bit early days now, but as you learn more and more words, you need to revise from lesson 1 again to keep your vocabulary strong. So these are questions I've put out there. I want you to consider these questions and see what kind of plan or strategy you can come up with, inshallah ta'ala. I would also like to remind the learners of prioritized learning. What I mean by that is that one is you have the grammar rules versus the vocabulary. Both are of importance and significance. Both are important, don't get me wrong. But remember, the rules are there to help you to understand the lesson and the concept you are dealing with. But always remember, vocabulary is just as important, because you can learn Sami'un is nakira or ma'rifa, as-sami'u is nakira or ma'rifa. Why did you say it's ma'rifa or nakira? You understand the concept or not? That's all on its place. But end of the day, in the Quran, you're going to see the word as-sami'u. You're going to see the word ghafurun. You need to know what it means. So that's what I mean by prioritize learning. So inshallah ta'ala, once we understand these things that I'm mentioning, our learning Quranic Arabic grammar will become easier and it will be more meaningful. So that's all for lesson 1 part 2, inshallah ta'ala. See that you complete the exercise, the activities that are listed on those particular pages. Until the next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.